Hello everyone, it's been a while since I've done one of these. And that's because, well, I made one of the ultimate bad life decisions. I bought a house. Now you're probably thinking, that's a good life decision. Well, a house is just a never-ending series of tasks that you must perform, otherwise your house will break and you will lose thousands of dollars. But nonetheless, it is time to talk about all of the items that I have picked up over the course of the last few months, and hopefully see if they can fill the void left in my soul from childhood trauma, and give me just the faintest spark of the joy that I once knew. But first up, speaking of childhood, is a movie, Titan AE. So I loved Titan AE when I was a kid. I watched it as a rental. I did not see it in the theaters, and this movie was a massive box office bomb. I don't believe it has ever gotten a release on Blu-ray. Yeah, this is a film that stars Matt Damon, Drew Barrymore, Bill Pullman, Nathan Lane, John Leguizamo, and Janine Garofalo. It was a Don Bluth animated film. Again, massive bomb. I think that was because it was pretty serious for an animated movie. The basic plot is these aliens that are basically made of electricity have destroyed the Earth. Humanity is teetering on the brink of extinction. And Matt Damon's character, his father, was the captain of a ship called the Titan that has gone missing. The Titan had the ability to basically build a new Earth, and so they are trying to find the Titan. If you see his hand there, I believe that's the key to activate the Titan. But yes, they're trying to find the ship to save humanity, and of course the evil aliens are trying to stop them. This was a movie, again, I saw it as a rental. It's one of, I associate it with two other movies. It's kind of a trilogy of bomb. 3 movies I watched as a kid that were massive bombs that I loved. So this, Treasure Planet, and Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within. Yes, I like Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, because I am not a Final Fantasy fan, and I like it for just what it is. But this movie, again, massive bomb. I don't believe it's out on Blu-ray. I think that's kind of one of those famous movies that just never got a release. But I finally picked up a DVD copy. I also want to take a look at this. It says, this is the movie that Star Wars fans were waiting for. And that's by Hollywood Bites. That is a shot at Phantom Menace, because this movie came out in the year 2000, and Phantom Menace had just come out. Speaking of Star Wars, I went to a toy fair, and I bought comic books. Yes, I bought comic books, and specifically, I bought the entire 6-issue run of Star Wars Dark Empire. Yes, Dark Empire, the controversial expanded universe comic series that did the unthinkable. It gave some questionable character development to Luke Skywalker, and it brought back Emperor Palpatine. That's right, Palpatine returned. Could you imagine if they did that in an actual Star Wars movie? So yeah, Dark Empire. I did not read this when it first came out. I was a child when it first came out. When I was getting into the Star Wars EU, this was one of those ones that I basically just read on Wikipedia. I didn't, read it. And so I finally picked up the series. I'm kind of in a weird place with Star Wars. I'm getting back into the EU. There's a TikToker, a young woman named Maddie High, or Hey, a young Australian woman, who does a lot of content about the expanded universe, and she's just so peppy and positive. It's kind of inspired me to kind of let go of my anger, let go of my hate, and to just kind of forget about the Disney era, or try my best to forget about the Disney era of Star Wars, and just dive back into the Star Wars that I loved, which was about in 2007 or so, when it felt like the movies were over, and Star Wars was just kind of the EU. And so I'm kind of abandoning the Disney canon, I'm going back to the EU canon, again, I felt that I should probably pick up Dark Empire and read it for myself for the first time. More paper that I bought. I bought this. I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I collect as much Mortal Kombat stuff as I can find. And so yeah, I picked up this Mortal Kombat Authorized Fighter's Companion Guide. Cost $9.99 back then, but yes, this is for the SNES, Genesis, Game Boy, and Game Gear. And yeah, it's just more Mortal Kombat. This is for the first game, as you can see there. We have the handheld. But yeah, again, I love Mortal Kombat. I like picking up anything related to it, and I'm getting more into books. It's fun to see tie-ins to video games. I like video game-based toys, and as you'll see, I've picked up a lot of, print media related to video games, and yeah, again, this is neat. Look at Johnny Cage there. Isn't that a great image of Johnny Cage? 29-year-old surfer dude Johnny Cage is currently riding a wave to stardom as the hero of martial arts films. He has been trained by great martial arts masters from all over the world. Cage has entered the Shaolin tournament to get publicity for himself and his upcoming movie. This time, however, none of the other fighters are going to be pulling any punches. Holy crap, I am now older than Johnny Cage. Although in recent years, they've kind of made Johnny more of a washed-up type actor that he's past his prime. So hopefully I'm still slightly older than that Johnny Cage. But yeah, Mortal Kombat Fighter's Companion. And as you'll see, I picked up a lot more Mortal Kombat stuff because GamePro. I am not really a magazine collector. You'll see several of these magazines. I got this specifically because we're talking about Mortal Kombat. I like to pick these up with games that I know and love. I'm not going for like a full set of these. There are people who really go for like full sets of Nintendo Power and stuff like that. That's not me. But we have the GamePro here, making of Mortal Kombat 2, and of course we have Mileena in the background, Johnny getting speared in the throat. That's that's not wrapping around it. That's going into his jaw and throat. Shao Kahn, and I'm guessing that this is a rendering. I think I've seen this before. I believe that this may be an early rendering of what would become Kintaro. Speaking of which, again, more magazines. We actually have the man himself, Kintaro. Yes, this is EGM's MK2 Hits Home, and we have some beautiful art there of Kintaro, Kitana, Mileena, Baraka, and Shang Tsung. I don't like this version of Shang Tsung. I never have. I have always liked the MK3 version of young Shang Tsung compared to this one, just because I think the hat is stupid. But yeah, again, that's EGM looking at MK2, as well as Contra 5, Super Street Fighter 2, Boogerman, Urban Strike, Clay Fighter 2, and Samurai Showdown. Again, continuing with the print media, we now are moving forward in time. We're now up to March 21st of 95. We're looking at Mortal Kombat 3, direct from WCES 1995, the preview issue. With over 100 games inside, we're looking at Mortal Kombat 3, as well as the US Saturn first picks inside. But what's interesting here is that Star Fox 2. We have some Star Fox 2 images in there. Of course, Star Fox 2 famously canceled. We didn't actually get a copy for purchase until the SNES Mini, but I bought this primarily because, yes, that's Kung Lao on the corner, or on the cover here, and it's just neat to have some other things in it. Again, Mortal Kombat. We're taking a look here. We are now at January of 1996, Ultimate Mortal Kombat. Meet the combat artists. And then, of course, we have other games tagged in here. But again, I bought it entirely for Mortal Kombat. Much the same reason I bought this one, another GamePro. We're moving up to July of 96. I am not even 3 years old at this time, but we are taking a look at Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 for the Saturn, which I do own. Yeah, again, a great image. I love these comics, and we'll talk more about some comics later. But this art style done for Shao Kahn and Sindel, just fantastic. I absolutely love. I just absolutely love this era, and to look back on it, I wasn't reading this as a kid. I was 3 years old, and so now, with the ability to look back in the past, it's so fun to look at the way people were, speculating and talking about these games at the time in the media. And so I love looking at that stuff. Again, we have one extra, another one here. This is from December of 1996. Again, we're looking at Mortal Kombat Trilogy here. I also want to point out, hot holiday games, we're looking at Resident Evil 2 and Twisted Metal 2. And again, this being 96, we're not talking about the Resident Evil 2 that we would eventually get. We are talking about what would eventually be Resident Evil 1.5. And so that's kind of interesting. But of course, I got it for Mortal Kombat. But again, my love of Resident Evil, I picked up this GamePro. The sticker is hiding the date on it. I can't actually tell you when this one is from. If we're talking about it, we do see NBA Fast Break 98. So I'm going to guess we are in 1998 here when we're looking at this. So this is the proper Resident Evil 2, not 1.5. And then what's really interesting down here is we have a little extra Mortal Kombat because we're talking about Sub-Zero mythologies. Moving on, we're going to finally get to some video games. I picked up some second-gen stuff. Anybody who has seen these before knows I like my second-gen stuff. So I picked up just a few Atari 2600 games. We have Commando Raid, Word Zapper, Hunt and Score, Star Raiders, and Sneak and Peek. Primarily, I picked these up. These were set together at a small booth at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. These were the three, Sneak and Peek, Commando Raid, and Word Zapper were the three I was actually after. But Star Raiders and Hunt and Score, no issue in getting those as bonuses. I have a lot of doubles of Atari games as it is. Moving forward, we're going to take a look at some games I picked up at a local, local enough to me. In Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, there is an Entertain Mart. I did not know that they were a chain, but it's basically Hastings. And so I picked up at an Entertain Mart some 3DO games. Yes, we have, this is an expansion pack for Return Fire Maps of Death. Again, I picked this up primarily just because it was a 3DO game that was for sale in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. But it's just fun to pick up 3DO stuff when I can. Foes of Ali, yes, this is a Muhammad Ali boxing title. Again, we do have the manual in it, but just a cheap jewel case they put the game in. But again, another 3DO title. This one I genuinely bought because I wanted it, not just because it was adding to the 3DO collection. Fun and Games, this is a Mario Paint-like title. And I loved Mario Paint, loved Kid Pix. So anything like this where you can just kind of play around and make, little paintings, small animations, things like that, were always fun. And so I like picking up stuff like that. Continuing forward on stuff that I just picked up for the hell of it, we have two 32X games. We have Shadow Squadron and Metalhead. I picked these up just for cheap. These were mostly to just, add some 32X titles that I have. I can't really speak to their quality. I've tested them out, or I've tested this one out. I have not tested out Metalhead. So watch me be completely scammed when it doesn't work. But yeah, these were primarily picked up just to add to the 32X collection because you don't see these often enough. But 32X, it's always fun to pick up a 32X title. I also picked up some N64 games, which the N64 we'll talk about in a little bit, but picked up Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero and Nightmare Creatures. So, Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero for the N64. I bought it just because, again, I want to have a version of every Mortal Kombat game within reason. I think that's kind of an unattainable goal, but I want to try and pick up most of them. And so you can tell that this is not the best game. In fact, I think it's a Hastings game, but it's got stickers and stuff all over it. As long as the game works, I am fine with that. I don't need my copy of Sub-Zero Mythologies for the N64 to be perfect, because frankly, I consider that to be the worst console version of a Mortal Kombat game. And when I say that, I want to also preface that I think the worst Mortal Kombat game is Special Forces. And of course you're saying, well, wait, you just said the worst console version. No, Special Forces for the PS1 is worse than Sub-Zero Mythologies for the PS1. However, I think Sub-Zero Mythologies for the N64 is worse than Special Forces for the PS1. And I say that because this game is punishingly hard. They removed the charming full-motion cutscenes, and of course you have to use the N64 controller with a very punishingly hard control scheme. And so I think that just makes the game unfun. So, if you're telling me I have to play either this or Special Forces on PS1, I'm actually going to be choosing Special Forces. Just my opinion. And to be honest, if we're going to talk about worst of all, I'm mostly talking about main consoles. I am going to say that there are handheld versions of the original games that are definitively worse than both this and Special Forces. They're just crap. And so, but again, it's all opinion. But my opinion is the only one that matters. And of course, I picked up Nightmare Creatures. Not going to talk a lot about that because we are moving forward with another Mortal Kombat game. Yes, I keep adding my Mortal Kombat games. We have MK2 for Sega Saturn. For Sega Saturn, I already have UMK3, Trilogy, just adding to that. And so had to pick up Mortal Kombat 2, picked this up at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. Not much special about it. It has broken hinges. Thank goodness. We actually have, I'm missing the sponge though. We have a Saturn game that does not have broken hinges. Hallelujah. Picked up a TurboGrafx 16 game that does have a broken hinge. Would you look at that? This was actually just something I tossed in to get a better deal, basically. I was haggling over some items at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. This was literally sitting in front of me in just like a pile of games, and I just kind of tossed this on there to feel like I was getting a good deal. And it's fun to get extra, TurboGrafx stuff. It's not often, but yeah, it's got a broken hinge. It had a broken hinge when I bought it. But yeah, Final Lap Twin, a racing title for the TG16. So just adding it to the collection. I picked up the Analog Duo, and so the more I pick up for that, the more I feel like I actually got my money's worth. Whoa, look at that. I had a massive sneezing fit. So what I was about to say before I sneezed my brains out was I picked up this copy, Panzer Dragoon Orta, for the original Xbox, and this is a Japanese one. I do not own a Japanese Xbox. This was another item that I kind of tossed in with other items to kind of bundle it all together, and I stupidly did not notice that this was Japanese. And so I actually don't own an American version of Orta, despite owning, the other Panzer Dragoon games. I thought, I'll add it on there. Stupidly not paying attention that this is the NTSC-J version. So I guess I just now have a Japanese copy. Maybe someday I will get a Japanese original Xbox. Who knows? I also picked up at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo Willow. Yes, Willow, based on the movie. This is one of my brother's favorite movies. He loves Willow. He considers Willow to be better than Star Wars, and he's not joking. He loves Willow. But again, just kind of a movie tie-in game, somewhat Zelda-inspired. But yes, we have Warwick Davis there, Val Kilmer. That is a weird version of him there. That art does not do him well. But yeah, picked up a copy of Willow, and it came in this snazzy little plastic case. And of course, we got the box in there, manual, everything. So it's nice to have. Continuing to move forward, something else I picked up just because, hey, I felt I should have it, because in this day and age, this is actually one of the few items that I ever bought digitally and just had for ages digitally, and finally, went out and picked up a copy. But it's the Journeys Collector's Edition, and it comes obviously with other titles. We have Flower and Flow, but picking up these titles, I have never played Flow. Journey I've only played slightly. I love Flower. I really, really loved Flower. It was just such a nice and happy game. And so I saw it at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and it was, I think I paid a total of $8 for this. And so that might be overpriced, but I just saw it and I thought, you know what? Let's pick it up. Moving on to games that I should have picked earlier, and a similar issue as to what I was talking about with Journey. Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2. This is the remastered version of Alan Wake and the deluxe edition of Alan Wake 2. I picked these up mainly because I really like Alan Wake. I love Control. And when Alan Wake 2 first came out, I was among the many that were upset that it was not getting a physical release. I like to have a physical release of the games, and not only that, I like to have them on Xbox. And so I played the original Alan Wake. The original Alan Wake was an Xbox exclusive, if I recall. So I want to keep them on that platform. And so finally, when I was able to, I broke down. I actually gave a physical copy to my brother for Christmas last year. He was finally playing it in October for Halloween. Talked about how great it was, and so I picked up Alan Wake 2 because, again, I had held off, and I felt a little miffed at Remedy, because originally it was just a digital release, and Remedy is a wonderful company. They make great games. I love Remedy. And so as far as that goes, I do feel good about owning these games. It just took me a while to come around to buy them. So I will hopefully play through Alan Wake 1 again and 2 here pretty soon. I also, to just kind of get on a soapbox here, I bought them for Xbox, and of course we're seeing all of these massive changes with Xbox that, to be honest, should concern you, and you should be angry at your fellow consumers, because eventually what we're doing is we're headed for an all-digital future, with Xbox being just primarily a distribution service for games that you cannot own, and you will just get them, and you will own nothing, and you will enjoy it. And don't we love that as consumers, because that's everything that we wanted. No, I don't want to own a DVD. I want to watch it on Netflix, and to hell with anything else and any sort of preservation. But moving on, we got some PS5 games. Yes, I picked up Still Wakes the Deep, interesting survival horror game set on an oil rig in the North Sea that is kind of beset upon by monsters. Face the Unknown. 1975, disaster strikes in the Barradee oil rig off the coast of Scotland. All lines of communications have been severed. All exits are gone. All that remains is to face the unknowable horror that's come aboard. Pray that one day you get to see your family again. This is just kind of a nice, survival horror game. If I recall correctly, I haven't had a chance to play it yet. This is one of those ones that somebody just kind of recommended. I watched a little bit of it. But to my knowledge, there's actually no real combat in it. It's basically just about avoiding the monsters and trying to survive, which, again, I like unique horror experiences like that. We'll talk about horror here in a second. But, of course, next, Metal Gear Solid Delta. I am a huge Metal Gear fan. And so, obviously, picking up Delta was something that I had to do. I haven't been through it yet because, again, I've had no time to do anything because I have to take care of a house. But yeah, of course I'm going to pick up Delta. I mean, Snake Eater is one of the best games of all time, and I had to pick that up, especially given that it's a modern game. And then I picked up Silent Hill F. Of all the games that we've seen here, oh, it's sliding, oh god, no. Of all the games that have been presented here, this is the one that I have beaten so far. I played through F for Halloween, and I really enjoyed it. I talked to a friend about this. My feelings toward this game are divided because this is a very good game. I don't know if I would like it as much if it weren't titled Silent Hill. And so what I mean by that is if it were just the spooky Japanese, schoolgirl game, I don't know that it would have been one of my, automatic buys. But I also feel like the Silent Hill name holds it back a little bit. I feel that there are things that it did very well that were very much like Silent Hill. And I feel that there are things that are nothing like Silent Hill that this game did really well. And if it makes sense to you, I feel that those kind of clash a little bit. Because you have the vibe of like, man, this is we're getting back into Silent Hill here. But then you have some other experience that are like, man, this is fun and this is interesting, but it's not Silent Hill. And so I have mixed emotions about this game, and both of them are the result of them being things that I like about this game. That's Silent Hill F, but I would recommend it. Moving into some of the last items that I picked up, we are going to now talk about Resident Evil Gaiden. This was one of my big pickups from the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. I am not a handheld guy. I do not much care for handheld video games. I never really got into them, but I love Resident Evil. This one, obviously, I think has had the battery changed because of they had to access the screw. I have played this. It is in good shape. This was one of my more expensive purchases at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, just because it's a Resident Evil game that I have never played up until the little bit that I played of this game after I purchased it. And I finally just broke down and said, you know what? I am going to buy Resident Evil Gaiden, even though I am not a huge Game Boy fan. Speaking of Resident Evil, this is probably the big purchase of the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and it's not even a video game. More comic books. Yes, this is the full set, and I will say I paid less than $210. I did haggle with the guy. But this is the full set, issues 1 through 5, of the Resident Evil comic book, the official comic book of the series. These have some really, really neat stories in them, and the art is done by Jim Lee. Jim Lee, this is like, anything by Jim Lee is fantastic. I'm stuttering over my words to confess how much I love Jim Lee's art. He is like the 90s, like who I imagine in my mind when it comes to these types of covers. And so, yeah, this is a comic book series. There's obviously character designs and interviews and things that are in here that are more about Resident Evil and what's going on. It's not every page is a comic book. They're just little stories that are in there. And of course, Jim Lee did not do the interior art that's done by Lee Bermeo. But obviously these are Jim Lee's cover work, and I had to pick this set up because, you don't see these often, and this is the full set. This is all issues 1 through 5. What's interesting is these were put out, I believe, by Image Comics initially. Before, sorry, not Image, what was it, Wildstorm? I'm trying to remember the exact story about this. It says 4 complete stories. That's what's inside here. There are 5 issues of this comic series, but technically 4 were only put out by one publisher, and the last one is technically released, I believe, by DC Comics. And that's because DC Comics acquired the publisher. And for the life of me, I cannot remember which it was, but it makes the 5th one somewhat harder to find because it's technically not part of the same set and was quietly released after the others. But moving into the last few items from the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, we're going back to Metal Gear Solid. So last year, I was blessed to meet Paul Eiding, who plays Colonel Campbell. I was also able to meet Cam Clark, the voice of Liquid Snake, as well as Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles. But I have held on to this, and I managed this year at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo to get Debbie Mae West, the voice of Meryl, and of course, David Hayter, the voice of Snake. All of them were all nice, every one of them. I will say, Cam Clark, when I met him, wonderful guy. Paul Eiding, just a sweet man who, I could tell that he was a little bit tired about this, but he actually, kind of snapped out of it and wanted to share the story. And then when I met Debbie Mae West, she had, all of her merch on the table, and several of them, had covers and stuff on them to protect them, and it caused basically everything to slide around, and somebody brushed up against it, and I was helping her pick them up, and I set them in the wrong place, and I apologized, and she was just saying like, oh, don't apologize, you were just trying to help. Just a very sweet woman. And then David Hayter is just so cool. I went up there, I shook his hand. He looked at me and he said, "How old were you when you first played this?" And I said, "Well, I watched my brothers play it when I was 5, and he said, way too young. And I kind of joked about being 5 years old and learning about like Gulf War syndrome and stuff like that. But it was just so nice to meet him. And again, there's a thing that he does with fans is when you're about to leave, you've got his autograph. He shakes your hand or fist bumps you, depending on. I think he fist bumped just because germs and stuff at cons. But he looks you in the eye and he says, "You're pretty good." And for Snake to tell me that I'm pretty good, that's like a childhood dream. That was a very special moment. Moving on to another autographed item. I debated on what game I wanted autographed, and I went with Luigi's Mansion. Between that and Mario Sunshine, 2 games that I loved, but I did get Luigi's Mansion signed by Charles Martinet. He is such a nice guy. I mean, my goodness. He was waiting there with so many fans. I mean, I actually kind of felt bad for other individuals. In fact, Richard Epcar, the voice of Raiden in several Mortal Kombat games, was also there. And the line for Mr. Martinet was backing up into Mr. Epcar's line. And I felt really bad about that. But just a nice guy. And I was lucky enough, there was a fella in front of me who had a very personal story with Charles Martinet. And it's not my story to tell, so I'm not going to repeat it. But he got to tell him this story, and I could see Mr. Martinet's eyes just light up as he's telling the story, and it was very special. And so I could genuinely tell that he cares about the fans that he's talking to. And of course, there were people there who are, neurodivergent or have disabilities, and he was just so kind and patient with those people. And I, of course, had Luigi's Mansion signed. This one was really special to me. I'm a younger brother. Luigi is the patron saint of younger brothers. I loved Ghostbusters. Luigi's Mansion was one of those GameCube games that I just made me in love with the system. And so I had to have him sign that. It was a toss-up between Sunshine and Mansion, but I had to go with Mansion just because, I bet he signs a lot of these. I'm sure he signed a ton of Luigi's Mansion, a ton of Sunshine, but I wanted him to sign as Luigi. And so moving on to the final item, and it is a console of sorts. I mean, it is a console, but it's not like a vintage console. Oh no, I dropped something. But I got this. Yes, this is the Analog 3D. I ordered this way back when. In fact, I was at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo when I first heard of the Analog 3D. Not this cycle, last cycle. I was actually talking about when they would get around to such a device, and literally an hour later, the announcement came out. But they happened to do this. I bought the white model because I wanted to be different. And of course, the day after I finally get my Analog 3D, they announce the fantastic versions of it. So that kind of hurt. But yeah, I picked this up because N64 is difficult. There are people out there who go to a lot of effort to mod the N64. There are some great options with HDMI modded N64s. But for me, for as much as I like to have original hardware, FPGAs do make things a lot easier. And I use a lot of FPGA consoles. I still collect the consoles. I will still probably buy other N64s. But leaving them intact and unmodified is, I think, preferable to me. And then playing the games, and playing the original games. It is important for me to actually play the original games. You can call me a hypocrite there, but every game collector has those weird little lines that they draw. But I wanted to have something that I could play the N64. The N64 is a weird console. It is a console that I feel is very overrated right now. I don't think it's a bad console, but I do think that there is a lot of artificial nostalgia for it. I think there are some great and amazing titles for the N64, but for me, there's no comparison between the N64 and the PlayStation 1. I mean, the N64 was fun. I had a lot of happy memories playing Star Fox, Shadows of the Empire, GoldenEye, but I mean, compared to the PS1, the memories that I have of Twisted Metal 2, Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, what else? Metal Gear Solid, of course, Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, Tomb Raider, Tomb Raider 1 through 3. I mean, that was a defining console for me. And so, as I get and revisit some things on the N64, I felt that it was probably better to do it with an analog console, because I own other analog consoles. I own the Analog Duo. I was about to say the Turbo Duo, but that's the real console. The Analog Duo, as well as the Analog. What is the title for it? I own their Super Nintendo. Their Super Nintendo. That's what I use it. I did not buy their NES. I actually went with the Retro AVS because by the time I learned what analog was, their version of the NES was already super expensive. But I picked this up because I do want to get back in the N64, which is made much easier by this. I don't have to upscale. I don't have to deal with all of that. I do upscale other consoles, but with this, it just makes it so much easier. So this will be my primary N64 console for the foreseeable future, and so I'm happy to have it. And with that, that is everything major that I've picked up over the course of the last few months. As you can tell, there's not a whole lot here, but that's just primarily because I have been spending way too much money on a house. And so with that, I thank you for your time, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. And if you don't, I tried my best. What do you want me to do?